The courtroom was a suffocating mess of silent judgment as I stood there, gripping the edge of the worn wooden chair. The air felt heavy, thick with whispers, and the distant note of a gavel hitting the desk that echoed like a sinister heartbeat. My heart raced as I caught sight of him. James, sitting there, his smug smile carving into my skin like a knife. This moment, this damn moment, was everything I had dreaded yet steeled myself for. He didn't realize the weight of the bombshell I was about to unleash. "Your Honor," I heard my own voice shaking, yet desperate to claim its ground. "I have evidence that proves my husband is—" "Your evidence is irrelevant," James interrupted, his tone slick with feigned confidence. "You're just bitter, lashing out because you were left for someone younger, someone who can give me what you couldn't." His words landed like stones on my chest, cold and suffocating. But beneath the blanket of panic and frustration, something clicked within me, a dormant fire igniting to life. I could not let him walk away unscathed. With every ounce of my being, I knew the truth existed beyond his lies, and it was time for that truth to rise to the surface. I could feel the air shift as I delved back into the labyrinth of how we got here, how hope had twisted into despair. Only months ago, I had been swept away in a whirlwind of romance, blinded by love as vibrant as a summer's day. James and I had danced in kitchens, laughed over spilled wine, and whispered sweet nothings under a blanket of stars. I can still remember that moment right after we got engaged, our fingers intertwined, gazing into each other's eyes as if the universe had smiled just for us. "Can you believe it?" I asked, clinging to his arm in the dim light. "We're really getting married? I can't imagine marrying anyone else." He smiled, his blue eyes sparkling, betraying a hint of mischief. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." It was intoxicating, this love. The world felt too chaotic for anything to break the spell we had cast around ourselves. I believed that our love was unassailable. Little did I know, lurking beneath the surface was a darkness that would soon engulf me. Months passed, and the golden light of our early days began to dim. I found myself slowly isolated, the laughter fading as he wrapped me tighter in an invisible rope. Friends grew concerned, reminding me that I had changed. I was no longer the vibrant woman whose laughter echoed in the hallways. "Where is your voice?" One of my closest friends, Sarah, asked one night, her eyebrows drawn tight with worry. "James loves me, Sarah," I insisted, brushing it aside, but even then, a flicker of doubt ignited in the back of my mind. But it wasn't until the first time I stumbled upon a brief, lingering silence, a dark wardrobe opening only slightly to suggest a hidden culture of deceit. I had returned home early from work one evening, an odd desire to surprise James nagging at my heart. But I found the house empty, eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of the fridge. As I moved through the living room, my gaze fell upon a receipt from a fertility clinic, dated less than a month prior. My breath caught in my throat. "James?" I called out, my chest tightening. My heart knew what it didn't want to accept. "Are you in here?" He stepped through the door then, his expression instantly switching from panic to an unconvincing calm. "Oh, hey, babe. You're home early." I stared at him, the receipt gripped tightly in my hand like a weapon. "What's this?" I held it out. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from a mounting rage. It's just—" he stuttered, his eyes darting to the floor. "They called about my back pain." "It's nothing serious." "Don't lie to me, James," I blurted, a storm of emotions crashing over me. "What's going on? Why were you at a fertility clinic?" His gaze sharpened. "I might be infertile, okay? But why does it matter? You're not even going to be in the picture much longer." With that, the world around me shifted. Time folded inward, darkening the edges of my reality. It was like diving into icy water, gasping at the shock of realizing I was drowning amidst a sea of lies. I found myself spiraling into memories, the laughter that now felt hollow and the sweetest whispered assurances that left an acrid taste in my mouth. A layer of ice encapsulating my heart, my body burning with betrayal. I wanted justice. I wanted truth. This wasn't over. It couldn't be. Image prompt. A courtroom scene with a tense atmosphere. The protagonist, mid-30s, has long chestnut hair, frantically clutching a crumpled receipt. Her expression a mix of determination and dread. James, in his late 30s, has short, slicked back hair and a confident yet arrogant demeanor, currently smirking at her. The background is filled with shadowy figures of judges and jurors, all listening intently, the air thick with tension. I felt like a ghost in my own home, silhouette, drifting through spaces where warmth had once thrived. Days had blurred, the vibrant colors of my life becoming a murky grey as James's hold tightened around me. Each week felt like a slow descent into a dense fog, swallowing me whole, isolating me from everyone I cared about. It started subtly. "Why do you need to go out with Sarah again?" James had asked one evening, the words laced with a passive-aggressive tone. We were in the kitchen, the smell of burnt pasta wafting around us. I caught my reflection in the window, a wan, hesitant version of myself. "She's my best friend, James. We haven't seen each other in weeks. Just dinner," I replied, but the trail of doubt in my voice echoed ominously. He folded his arms, leaning against the counter like an immovable wall. "All these girls' nights. It's not like you're meeting anyone worthwhile." I felt my stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" "Honestly, I just think you should focus more on us. You could always invite her here." He stepped closer, his gaze piercing. "We have more fun together anyway, don't you think?" The casual disregard for my feelings pressed down with a weight I couldn't shake. Despite my resistance, I found myself giving in more often, dreading the small arguments that escalated quickly. Each time Sarah called, I hesitated, feeling a wave of guilt crash against the fragile remains of my self-worth. I didn't want to be the problem, and apologizing became second nature. "Fine, let's just hang out at home," I'd say, the expectations of normality wrapping around me tighter with every concession. "Good," he'd respond, almost too eagerly. "You're so much more fun when you focus on what matters." I wish I'd recognized how dangerous his words were. I wish I'd questioned that tight grasp around my social life, the way he managed to pull me further away from everyone who loved me. As months slipped by, the isolation deepened. Friends would text, a ping of a message, "Hey, can we get together? I miss you." And another piece of my heart twinged. But there was always an excuse ready, carefully rehearsed and polished. "Sorry, Sarah. James is really tired tonight. He's been working late." I could hear her concerned tone over the phone, but I continued, "I'll call you later? I don't understand. Why won't he let you come out?" she'd say, her voice brimming with worry. "It's just a phase. You know how men can be. We'll get through it," I'd assure her, convincing not just her, but myself too. I slowly began to lose sight of my independence, chained to the domesticity of our home. A place that had once felt warm now grew colder with every meant-to-be comfort. I would sometimes catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror, searching for the echoes of the woman I used to be, but finding only a shadow of defeat staring back. It was on a particularly rainy Tuesday when the storm inside had mirrored the torrent outside. I stood in the living room, gazing out the window at the droplets racing down the glass, feeling trapped in a world far removed from the love I thought I knew. "Why are you just standing there like a statue?" James called from the kitchen, his voice cutting through my thoughts like a knife. "I was just looking outside. Dot, dot," I mumbled, feeling small and insignificant. "Well, if you're trying to become one with nature, you could at least help me with dinner." His words rang with a forced cheerfulness that hid a simmering impatience beneath. "I can't do everything." The pressure in my chest grew heavier as if the walls were closing in. "I'll help in a minute. I just need a moment." I could see the darkening clouds gathering in the corners of his expression as he advanced into the room. "I just don't get why you can't prioritize what's important. Do you want people thinking you don't care?" His voice had shifted from joking to accusatory, the kind of tone that sent my heart racing with fear. "Of course I care, James. I don't want to mess things up if you need a moment." I struggled to keep my voice steady, hoping it didn't sound as fragile as I felt. He scoffed, the sound reverberating around the room with disdain. "Sounds to me like you're more interested in pity parties with your friends than being here for me." The knife of guilt twisted, catching my breath. He was right. I was a failure because I didn't want to be overwhelmed by a man who was supposed to love me. "You really don't care about me, do you?" "I'm just a nuisance to you now," I blurted out, words spilling like broken glass. He stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "Don't say that. You could have everything if you learned to be grateful. But if you're going to continue pushing me, maybe I'll just step out for a while." The threat lingered heavily in the air, and the darkness of our reality settled even deeper in my stomach. How could I let it get this far? I felt like a marionette held up by strings I no longer saw. My friends had faded, and my strength had dulled. As weeks melted into more months, The emotional dependency tightened like an anaconda coiling around its prey. James managed the finances, every purchase scrutinized, leaving me with little but my name and my bank card, and I felt that familiarity, creeping dread that I could never escape his shadow. I could feel the walls of our duplicated life crushing down around me, and all I wanted was to carve out a space for myself again, to breathe again. I could no longer decipher where he ended and I began. I was lost, but I was just beginning to understand that I wanted to be found. Image prompt. A dimly lit kitchen where the protagonist is standing rigidly by a window glancing outside. She has long chestnut hair pulled back in a loose bun and wears a worn-out t-shirt. The oppressive atmosphere is punctuated by the storm outside, highlighting her isolation as James, with short, slicked-back hair and a frustrated expression, stands behind her, arms crossed, oozing intimidation. The kitchen clutter contrasts a sense of home once filled with warmth but now suffocated. I was nestled in the corner of the couch, trying to ignore the growing tension in our home. The ticking of the clock on the wall seemed to taunt me, a steady reminder of my minute-by-minute descent into confusion. James was in the kitchen, the sound of pots clanging echoing against the hushed silence that wrapped around us like a suffocating blanket. The air was thick, heavy with a pungent odor that I couldn't quite identify. Something between burnt garlic and anxiety, a scent that made my stomach churn. "Babe, are you going to help me with dinner?" he called out, his voice dripping with irritation. I could hear the scrape of the spatula on the frying pan, punctuating his words like a drill to my brain. I sighed. "I'll be there in a minute," I replied, though I didn't have the energy to move. My eyes darted toward the small pile of mail on the coffee table, untouched like so many of my emotions. The sunlight streaming in through the window caught an envelope with my name on it, one of James's treasures. I assumed, from the many bills that governed our lives. "Don't make me ask twice, Sarah," he snapped, a sharp edge creeping into his tone. "Coming," I muttered, pushing myself up from the couch. Each step toward the kitchen felt like I was dragging a weight behind me, a reminder of how much I had lost myself in this life we built. The room felt stifling as I entered, the smell intensifying, lingering like a ghost I couldn't escape. "Why do you always take so long?" He was at the stove now, his back turned to me as he stirred something bubbling angrily. "You know I can't keep juggling everything." I leaned back against the counter, crossing my arms defensively. "I'm here now, James. What do you need?" Head turned slightly, and I caught the flicker of irritation in his eyes before he buried it. "I just need you to pitch in. This isn't just my responsibility." "Fine. Here, let me take over," I offered, eager to deflect the tense air between us. I moved toward the stove. That's when something caught my eye on the kitchen island, a small piece of paper, carelessly tossed away. Instinctively, I picked it up. It was a receipt. The logo of a fertility clinic blinked back at me like a neon sign. My heart thundered in my chest as I scanned the details. A date from 2 weeks ago. A name that wasn't James's, and a cost that implied this was more serious than I had ever imagined. "James," I started, my voice trembling with something I couldn't quite identify. "What's this?" He whipped around, the moment freezing between us. "What do you mean?" His face twisted into a mask of confusion that didn't quite reach his eyes. "What do you want?" I held it out, my hands shaking. What's this doing here?" He stepped closer, the heat radiating off his body, mixing unnaturally with the swirling aroma from the stove. "Put that down." "It's nothing." "Nothing?" I echoed, my heart racing. "You expect me to believe this is nothing?" Rage flared in his eyes, and I could feel the tension expand into the corners of the kitchen, suffocating and sharp. "You're just digging for trouble. We've been over this." "No, you've been hiding things from me. You can't keep brushing me off like this." As the words spilled from my lips, a familiar sense of desperation clawed at my insides. My voice trembled, but the anger had fortified my spirit. I said, "Put it down." His face was mere inches away from mine now, jaw clenched tight. "Why can't you just trust me for once? You keep looking for ways to undermine what we have." "Trust you?" I hissed, a bitter taste in my mouth. "How can I when you're hiding receipts from fertility clinics under our own roof? Who is she, James?" He scoffed, turning away from me, the air crashing like thunder with the force of his dismissal. "You always look for reasons to accuse me. Find someone else to throw your insecurities at." Something shifted in the air, subtle at first, but it became overwhelming. The sweet scent of sautéed garlic became rancid, and the clatter of utensils morphed into a drum roll of my heart pounding harder. "Stop evading! Look me in the eye and just tell me the truth," I demanded, my voice breaking. He turned back slowly, the storm brewing beneath the surface evident in his eyes. "There's nothing to tell, Sarah. It's a mistake." "A mistake?" I felt the world tilt beneath me. "A mistake you made feel unbearable and tangible in front of my face?" He slammed the spatula down, the sound resonating like a death knell. "Stop being so dramatic. I'm not interested in this conversation." "Why wouldn't you want to discuss it? Is it because you're afraid of the answer?" There was silence, the silence of 1,000 accusations weighing heavy between us. The receipt felt like a burning ember in my hand, and suddenly, every lingering doubt I had tried to bury surged to the surface like a raging current. It rotted my mind, twisted and warped every thought about our life, our love, our supposed future. I could hardly breathe, the air igniting a sense of foreboding that clawed at my insides relentlessly. Maybe I was wrong to stay. Maybe I was wrong to ignore the warning signs staring me in the face like a salt wedge sinking into the foundation of my clear ocean. "James," I whispered, my voice thin and frail like a candle wrestling against a gale. "Tell me about her." But all I got in return was the turning of his back, the sound of sizzling oil drowning my pain, a fracture that felt as vast as any ocean. A moment of silence stretched between us, a facade crumbling at the feet of reality. I stood there, heart racing, tethered to the beast of my insecurities that I couldn't shake off. I wanted to scream, to destroy the walls he'd built around me. More than anything, I wanted truth, a truth that would sever the bonds of adolescent nightmare. But for now, I was still here waiting for the unraveling. Image prompt: a tense kitchen scene filled with muted earth tones. The protagonist, in her early 30s, has long chestnut hair pulled back in a messy bun, a look of turmoil etched on her face as she clutches a crumpled receipt. James, late 30s, stands across from her, arms crossed defensively, his slicked back hair barely concealing the tension in his brow. The kitchen is dimly lit, with shadows elongating as the fried meal simmers in the background, reflecting their fractured relationship. I spent long nights trapped in a vortex of confusion, desperately piecing together the puzzle that was my life. The receipt from the fertility clinic haunted my dreams, and with each passing hour, it was as if the weight of the truth pressed more heavily on my chest, squeezing out the last breaths of hope I clung to. I couldn't let it go. I wouldn't. It was time to become the detective in my own life. I needed to unveil the truth, no matter how painful. One rainy evening, as droplets drummed against the window of our dim living room, I sat on the couch, laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard, shaking slightly. My pulse was a beating drum, syncing with the rain's rhythm as I gathered my thoughts. I scoured forums about infidelity, gaslighting, and emotional abuse, searching for tips on what I should do next. Each click, each revelation pulled me deeper into a rabbit hole I had never wanted to explore. They said the best time to catch someone was when they least expected it. James had no idea I was watching him like a hawk. He had always been meticulous, but suddenly I could see the chinks in his armor that he thought were impenetrable. I decided to set up hidden cameras around the house where he wouldn't suspect I was gathering evidence against him. Mission: install recorders. Surveillance was a necessity. The following afternoon, while he was out on one of his business trips, another lie disguised as absences has crept around our home, hands trembling as I tucked away tiny devices in strategic corners. I placed one inside the living room's decorative vase, another behind the bookshelf, and one beneath the kitchen sink, where he seldom looked. Each click of the recorder felt like a piece of my heart breaking free from chains I hadn't realized were binding me. I felt empowered, no longer just the silent caregiver, but the architect of my path to freedom. Suddenly, my phone buzzed beside me, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a text from Sarah, my old friend, the one person who sparked even the faintest flame of defiance within me. "Hey, can we please talk? I'm worried about you," she typed quickly, the words screaming like a siren. I furrowed my brow, the welling of emotion nearly choking me. Maybe it was time to let someone back in. Maybe it was time to share the storm brewing inside my heart. "Can you come over?" I texted back, anxiety and longing battling in my chest. A little over an hour later, the door opened and Sarah stepped inside, her presence blooming warmth into the room. She had her signature curly hair tied back in a loose bun, and her expressive eyes were filled with concern. She always had this way of cutting through my chaos, bringing clarity and truth along with her. "Sir, you look good," I greeted, forcing a smile. "Sorry, it's such a mess in here." "Stop lying. It's an absolute wreck," she replied with a teasing lightness, but the concern never left her eyes. "What's going on? You don't text me come over without context. Tell me everything." I hesitated, the words catching in my throat, but I knew I needed to shore up my strength. "I found a receipt," I croaked. "James was at a fertility clinic. I can't understand it." She gasped, eyes widening as she sank onto the couch beside me. "Holy hell, Sarah! What does this mean?" "I don't know. I thought I'd brought the mystery of our life back to light, but it's only shrouded me in more confusion. I think I need to do something. I need proof of what he's really doing behind my back." "What do you mean you're not serious about?" "I've already set up recorders around the house," I replied, my heart racing at the admission. I thought if I could catch him in the act, I might finally have the ammunition I need to end his stranglehold on me. "Whoa, okay, that's a big step, but I get it. We need to find out the truth, right?" Her voice softened into understanding, and I felt the weight of my despair lift just a fraction. "I also want to hire a private investigator," I admitted, the guilt swirling in my gut. "Somewhere along the way, I lost myself, and I can't keep losing parts of me to his manipulation." "Damn straight. You deserve to know the truth," she encouraged, the fire of determination dancing in her words. "What do you need me to do?" I exhaled deeply, the hope igniting a flicker of ambition. "Can you help me find someone reputable? Just can't go through this alone anymore." "I've got your back. I'll find you the best. We'll navigate this together," she reassured me, and I could see the strength of her loyalty pouring into me, filling the cracks left by James's deceit. A rush of gratitude warmed me, despite the clouds lurking overhead. Perhaps I wasn't entirely lost. Guidance was just a tap away. With Sarah as my ally, maybe justice wasn't as far-fetched as it once seemed. As she rifled through her phone, searching for contacts, I couldn't shake the rising conviction. I was reclaiming my narrative piece by piece. Each moment of diligence, each instance of fortitude chiseled away fears nurtured by James for far too long. The stillness of the room buzzed with thoughts of liberation, and with each word exchanged, I felt my spirit start to potentiate. "Just promise me you won't let them suck any more joy from you," Sarah said softly, her eyes earnest. "Let's do this together!" The resolve in her voice ignited the fire within me. I was ready to rise. Image prompt. A dimly lit living room filled with remnants of unfinished projects. The protagonist, in her mid-30s, with long chestnut hair disheveled and reflecting her emotional turmoil, sits beside her best friend Sarah, who has curly hair tied up and an expression of fierce determination. They are huddled over a laptop, surrounded by scattered papers and empty coffee cups. The window shows raindrops sliding down the glass, symbolizing both an impending storm and the hope of new beginnings. The days blurred together as the clouds of uncertainty began to lift, revealing an unsettling kind of clarity. I was on a mission, and for once in my life, I felt like I was seizing control instead of merely surviving in a fog of despair. Armed with my hidden cameras and Sarah's unwavering support, I was ready to step into the fray. I waited patiently in the living room one evening, the sun setting outside, casting long shadows across the room. My heart raced as James walked through the door, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing not just outside, but right inside our home. I had just gotten a notification that one of the cameras had picked something up, his voice. A tense conversation I sensed would lead to the betrayal I had long suspected. I knew I had to confront him. As his footsteps echoed down the hallway, I felt my pulse quicken, the challenge ahead sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Hey, we need to talk," I called out, forcing my voice to hold a steady ground. He paused, arching an eyebrow as he leaned against the doorframe. "What's the matter now? You find another piece of trash to sob over? Don't dismiss me like that," I snapped, my insides swirling with apprehension, but there was something electric in my determination. "I know you've been lying to me. Lying about what, Sarah?" His voice dripped with mockery, a blade meant to cut deep, and I instinctively recoiled. This. I held up the receipt from the fertility clinic, my heart pounding in my throat like a furious war drum. What's this doing in our kitchen? James's eyes narrowed as he stepped forward, the energy between us shifting heavily. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's not what you think. No? Then tell me what it is, I demanded, fighting to keep the tremor from my voice, but my heart raced faster. It was for a friend. He shrugged it off, and I felt a wave of anger wash over me. They needed advice about maybe adopting kids or something. A friendly recommendation, that's all. Do you honestly expect me to believe that? You expect me to just go along with this charade? He stepped closer, a predatory glint in his eyes. I think you've been watching too many crime shows, Sarah. What's wrong with you? Do you really think that little of me? I felt my composure teetering on the brink, every muscle in my body tense as I stood my ground. I found that, and I'm more than justified to ask you about it. His smile faded into something darker, the tension morphing into a palpable threat. I would be careful with how you speak to your husband. You know, the kind of paranoia you're exhibiting could lead people to question your grasp on reality. Are you gaslighting me? I felt a chilling sensation crawl up my spine. The accusation was thrust into the air like a dagger. You can't just twist the truth and expect me to accept it. His face hardened, eyes narrowing. You think you know everything, don't you? Let me remind you, you're the one who stumbled upon something you didn't understand. You're the one drowning in your insecurities and trying to pin it all on me. The accusation struck deep, a chill wrapping around my heart. I have every right to question you. I can feel the distance between us. Distance? He barked. The only distance is that you keep digging yourself a hole. You're the one forcing me into the arms of someone else. Fine. You want to be like this? Maybe I'll just leave. Would that make you happy? My breath quickened. You wouldn't dare. Try me, he countered, the words rolling off his tongue with a contempt that made my skin crawl. You think you're some kind of detective? Do I need to remind you of what happened to the last detective who challenged me? Every instinct screamed at me to back down, to find shelter from the storm brewing with each exchange. But I couldn't. It was too late to back out now. I need answers, James. You owe me that much. Don't try to intimidate me. He stepped closer, shadows casting his face in sinister contours. You're treading on thin ice. If you don't drop this nonsense, I'll have no option but to show everyone just how unhinged you really are. You want to play this game? I'm more than happy to turn the tables on you. The emotion hit me like a tidal wave, my vision narrowing down to a pinpoint. The truth felt like a nightmare where light was suffocated beneath the weight of his manipulations and lies. You're threatening me? I whispered, horrified. I'm just warning you, he said, a chill imbued in his voice. Be careful, Sarah. Not everyone will believe a sob story cooked up by an unstable mind. The air around us went still, as if charged with static electricity, amplifying the tension that now pulsed with haunting clarity. My heart sank further, trapped amidst a haze of despair and rage. The man I once loved had become a master manipulator. I'm not crazy, James, I said, my voice shaking but resolute. I won't let you silence me. Is that so? He taunted quietly, the threat lingering in the air like smoke from an extinguished flame. Because if you keep pursuing this, you'll only destroy yourself. As he turned away, a cacophony of emotions exploded within me. Fear clawed at my lungs, but steely determination ignited in my heart. I wasn't about to back down now. Not when I was so close to breaking free from the chains of manipulation. The confrontation left me trembling, the shadows looming large in the corners of the room. I felt more uncertain than ever, slumped against the wall as I absorbed the aftermath, the reality that he could turn my fight for the truth into a weapon against me. Perhaps he thought he'd won, but I was just getting started. Image prompt. A tense confrontation in a dimly lit living room. The protagonist, mid-30s with long chestnut hair, stands fiercely before James, a sense of betrayal and resolve evident in her expression. James, late 30s with slicked back hair, stands menacingly close with a dark smile, arms crossed, exuding condescension. Shadows cast across both faces, amplifying the tension, leaving the air thick with unspoken threats and unyielding fear. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ominous glow across our living room as I stood at the threshold of despair. I didn't recognize the woman in the reflection of the glass. My body trembled as I clutched my phone tightly, heart racing. The recent confrontation with James had left me battered, my spirit aching under the weight of his threats. The atmosphere crackled with unresolved tension, a storm brewing that felt as palpable as the impending rain outside. As I paced the room, I could feel the walls closing in around me. My breath came in shallow bursts, while I stared at the receipts I had recovered, each one a jagged dagger reminding me of the deceit that festered within my home. My heart twisted painfully in my chest as I thought about how I had once believed this was a sanctuary. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Did you catch him in the act?" The screen blinked. "No, but I confronted him." "He's dangerous," I replied, the anxiety threading through me like a vine, tightening its grip. "What did he do?" I hesitated, glimpsing back at the lower levels of our home, that proverbial fortress now filled with shadowy whispers. "He threatened me," I typed, my fingers faltering as visions of his cold eyes raced through my mind. "Said I could lose everything, my kids, my pets." "Sarah, need to get out. You can stay with me if you need," she texted back, her compassion shining through the concern. "Thank you." "I think I might need to," I replied, my heart weighing heavy as I swallowed the lump of fear lodged in my throat. But before I could process my thoughts, the door burst open with an unexpected fury. James marched in, his presence darkening the room like a thundercloud. I froze, gripping the phone tightly, bracing myself for the confrontation I could no longer avoid. "What the hell are you doing?" he barked, his voice echoing through the narrow space, sending chills skating down my spine. Panic gripped me. "James, are you seriously still digging into this? I thought I made it clear you shouldn't poke around where it doesn't belong." His face contorted with rage, and I could see the angry flush creeping up his neck, revealing his boiling temper. "It's my life too," I asserted, clearing my throat, desperate to summon courage. "You think you could just treat me like this and walk away?" "I'll treat you however I damn well please, Sarah," he shot back, stepping dangerously close, his breath hot against my face. "You're the one who's been unhinged. Keep this up and I'll walk out of here for good." My heart raced, panic bubbling to the surface. "You can walk away from this life, but you will never walk away from your actions. I deserve to know the truth." In a flash, he advanced, and I instinctively took a step back. "You better watch your tone," he hissed, his features twisted with malevolence. "Picture this. Losing the kids, your job, everything you've worked for. You're not unbreakable, Sarah." I recalled the hushed conversations about our pets, the cats he threatened to take. "You wouldn't do that," I gasped, my body trembling under his ferocity. "Oh, I'd do it in a heartbeat," he spat, an ugly grin stretching across his face. "Don't test me." "You really think I won't?" "The judge would see you as the unstable one." The walls felt like they were closing in. I didn't just feel trapped. I felt suffocated, as if each gasp might be my last. "What do you want?" I whispered, the fight draining out of me, replaced by a surge of despair. "First, you need to stop snooping," he declared, taking a step back and leering at me with condescension. "Otherwise, I'll have to make things really uncomfortable for you. You wouldn't want the kids caught in all this mess, would you?" I pressed my hands against the counter to ground myself, desperate not to crumble before him. "They need to know the truth," I mentioned, my voice quiet but resolute. "Truth?" He scoffed, waving his hand dismissively. "Truth is, you're a housewife living in a dreamland. No one will believe anything you say. You'd be left in the dust like a fading star while I move on happily." "James," my voice broke. "Oh, please," he mocked, waving his hands in the air. "The court will laugh at your pathetic claims. Start thinking about how much you want to lose. You're on borrowed time." Shock washed over me, catching my breath like icy water. It became painfully clear that this was my rock bottom. I felt utterly defeated, stripped of every shred of control. Tears threatened, and my face burned with shame. In that moment, I realized how much power he wielded over my life, and it left my heart heavy with sorrow. Then, out of nowhere, "You have no money. You have no support," he continued, stepping back and folding his arms. "It wouldn't take much for me to remind everyone of how unstable you really are." His words were daggers, and they cut deep. Asterisk, I've become a prisoner in my own life. Asterisk, an emotional hostage. The fear of losing everything became a palpable weight that shoved me into the depths of despair. Tears brimmed in my eyes as I blinked away the creeping darkness. "If you care at all, you'll understand I had to uncover the truth, but you want to hold me hostage with threats." James laughed coldly, a sound that reverberated through the hollow air. You think that makes me a bully? You're just too afraid to recognize who really controls your fate because it's not you. The mere notion of his triumph made my heart ache deeper. I willed myself to breathe through the pain, realizing this was the moment that would define my escape or entrap me indefinitely. "I won't let you," I stammered, clenching my fists at my sides, determination growing like a fragile flame. "I will fight for what's mine." "You'll fight?" He laughed incredulously, arching a brow. "Who do you think will believe you? The friends you've lost or the family you've pushed away? You've cut yourself off from everyone." One last feeling of fear washed over me, but this time infused with resolve. I was down but not out, and if there was any chance left, I would find it somehow, no matter the cost. As if sensing my shifting energy, James's laughter tapered into a chilling smirk. "Good luck trying. But understand this." He leaned in closely, his voice thick with menace. "If you dare to disturb my world again, you'll lose everything you hold dear." I held my ground, refusing to show weakness, even though my insides churned. They thought they had destroyed me, I realized, the words echoing within me like the reminders of my suffering. But I'm just beginning to fight back. As I stared into the depths of his eyes, I felt a flicker of strength waking within me, the strength that had lain dormant for too long. I resolved to set a course for the truth to rise, no matter the cost. *** if you hate bullies, hit the like button. *** image prompt. A tense moment in a dimly lit living room with the protagonist. A woman in her mid-30s with long chestnut hair falling around her face, standing defiantly before a man, late 30s, with slicked back hair and a smug grin. The air is thick with anxiety, shadows stretching across the walls, reflecting the emotional turmoil and threat of her predicament. I felt a whirlwind of emotions racing through me as Sarah and I stood in my living room. The tension still thick in the air following my confrontation with James. The weight of his threats lingered in my mind. But I had become a fighter, emboldened by our conversations, fueled by the search for the truth. As the sunlight faded into a dull grey, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper lay beneath the surface, a nuclear secret waiting to be unearthed. "Have you thought more about what I said?" Sarah asked, pulling me out of my thoughts. "That we need to find out if there's more to this." "More?" I repeated, my heart racing. "You mean like the infertility?" I can't believe he lied to me about that. The reality of my situation sank like a stone in my stomach. I couldn't just stop here. I needed to push through, yes. But also, what if there's something else? Something that could uncover his real motives. He's acting shady, Sarah. There's no way it's just about the kids or the clinic. My mind was racing. What if it has to do with money or something criminal, I mean? Who even knows? I paced around the room, anxiety bubbling underneath the surface. He's always had a knack for keeping secrets. What if there's a hidden family? Or worse, something illegal? "I can help you figure it out," Sarah said, her voice steady and confident. "Let's start by checking out his financials. Maybe he's been funneling money? Or hiding some debts?" Believe me, I've already felt his financial control hovering over me like a hawk. But I don't have access to anything he manages all the bills and accounts, I admitted, frustration bubbling up again. "Let's get a private eye on this." "I'm not giving up. We need to dig deep." "This could be the smoking gun," she urged, her enthusiasm reigniting a spark inside me. "Let's not give up hope. This isn't just about righting wrongs. It's about reclaiming your life." Every time she acknowledged my struggle, a surge of determination shot through my bones. "Okay, let's do it. We need to find someone who specializes in financial investigations." I could feel the tide shifting as we researched online for reputable private investigators. Sarah hunched over her phone, typing feverishly. "There's one here. Look, he has great reviews," she said, turning the screen toward me. I glanced at the name, Robert Sinclair and Associates. Hope surged through me as I read the glowing testimonials. There. Expertise in uncovering hidden assets and uncovering motives struck a chord deep in my heart. "Let's call," I said, fighting the gnawing anxiety in my stomach. "Let's see what kind of dirt we can dig up on this guy." As Sarah placed the call, I paced the room, my heart racing, each tick of the clock resounding like a countdown towards something monumental. "Your call is important to us. Please hold for the next available representative." A smooth voice echoed through the speaker, and I felt my heartbeat sync with the relentless rhythm. "Hey, I'm freaking out here," I whispered to Sarah, unable to contain the nervous energy bubbling inside me. What if he senses that I'm looking for a PI? What if he manages to flip everything against me? "Relax, we're just doing what any responsible adult would do. Plus, you have me on your side," Sarah reassured me, her voice calming as the operator finally picked up. "Hello, this is Ben from Robert Sinclair and Associates. How can I assist you today?" I leaned in, straining to hear the conversation. "Hi, Ben. I need some help identifying potential financial discrepancies related to my friend's husband. He's been hiding things in their relationship, and we suspect he's involved in something more serious," Sarah explained. "Absolutely, I'd be happy to help," Ben replied, his tone professional yet warm. "Why don't we start by gathering some details about the husband? When did you first notice issues?" I could hear the echo of concern in Sarah's voice as she relayed snippets of my story, weaving a narrative easily understandable, detailing my growing fears and James's manipulative behavior. "Okay, so it sounds like he's keeping you from accessing joint accounts. That can be a significant red flag," Ben continued. "We have resources to uncover assets, spending patterns, anything that might seem obscured. If you believe there's something more, we'll find it." "Thank you," Sarah chimed, and my heart raced with anticipation. As they set up an appointment for a consultation, a flicker of hope ignited within me. Finally, there was a path opening before us, one I hadn't seen before today. "See?" Sarah said, her enthusiasm infectious. "This could be the lead we're looking for." I can't help but feel there's something there, just waiting for us to uncover it. As I absorbed her words, my chest began to feel lighter. The secret James had buried refused to stay hidden, and with Sarah by my side and a professional investigator in the mix, the undeniable layers of deception began to unravel. "Oh, before I forget," Sarah said, suddenly serious, "do you think he's involved in something illegal? Are we really prepared for what we might find?" "I have no idea," I confessed, swallowing hard. "But I'm ready to find out." My heart raced in ways I hadn't anticipated, each thump echoing hope and trepidation as the pieces of my life began to reassemble. Not in the way James intended, but in a new vision of liberation. Maybe justice was finally within reach. Image prompt. 2 women huddled together in dim light. One with long chestnut hair showing determination on her face, and the other with curly hair, looking intensely focused while scrolling on her phone. Scattered receipts litter the table, the visible sense of apprehension enveloping them. Shadows of uncertainty cling to the walls, illuminated only by the harsh glow of the phone screen. As I stared at the bustling street from my window, a sensation washed over me, a mixture of dread and determination. The days had turned to weeks since I enlisted the help of the private investigator, and I could feel the walls closing in around me in James's oppressive presence. I needed to draw him out, to reveal the truth in a way that would not only protect myself, but expose him in front of everyone who could stand witness. It was an ordinary Saturday when I conceived the plan. The crisp air outside promised a pleasant day, and I knew that James loved having brunch at our favorite local bistro. It was the perfect setting, a place where casual observers could easily become unwitting accomplices in my scheme, where the whispers of concern could blanket his arrogance and reveal his true nature. "James?" I called from the living room, feigning excitement as he walked in, still buttoning his shirt. "I was thinking we could go to the Blue Plate for brunch today. Just like old times." He paused, his brow furrowing slightly, probably wondering how my sudden enthusiasm fit into his rigid schedule. "That's nice, but I have some things to take care of. Can't I just grab a sandwich at home? Come on." I adopted a playful whine, batting my eyelashes. "It'll be fun, and we haven't gone out in ages. Just us." He tilted his head, skepticism clear on his features, but I smiled brightly, trying to infuse warmth into my plea. "Aren't you curious how they made those amazing blueberry pancakes? I promise it'll be quick, and you can still do whatever you need to afterward." I could see him weighing my words, perhaps battling with frustration over the fact that a simple brunch had become a power struggle. "Fine," he finally relented, a forced half-smile pinned on his face. "But let's make it quick." A rush of excitement coursed through me, knowing it was all in the name of my trap. I needed to act the part of the devoted wife while simultaneously stretching my fingers, ready to pull the strings of deception. The bistro was lively, the aroma of fresh coffee and pastries mingling with laughter and chatter. As we settled into our usual booth, a spot with a view of the entrance, I could already feel the adrenaline humming beneath my skin. See? Isn't this nice? I beamed at him, perfecting an act of blissful ignorance. Sure, but don't expect this to become a regular thing, he replied, scanning the menu with disinterest. Of course, just a little break from reality, I replied lightly, mentally reminding myself of the camera I had installed at home, capturing everything. As we ordered our food, he began to loosen up. The tension that had held his frame rigid started to dissolve, and I knew I had to capitalize on this fragile state. James, can I ask you something? I ventured, gathering my courage as his fork clinked against the plate. Go ahead, he replied, barely looking up. Do you remember the last time we talked about having kids? I asked, my heart pounding louder than the conversations surrounding us. Yeah, what about it? He finally looked up, and the curiosity in his eyes felt both enticing and threatening. I feigned innocence. I know how much you wanted to have children. It must be tough having to wait now with everything going on. He scoffed lightly, waving it away. Yeah, well, maybe one day. I mean, who wants to deal with that now? We have enough on our plate. I leaned in, lowering my voice. But what if I told you I have some new information? That could alter the landscape entirely. He arched an eyebrow, his interest piqued, a hint of irritation flashing across his face. What do you mean? Just something I heard about the fertility clinic, I said softly, expertly concealing my rising panic. It seems some people might be, well, not as able as they'd like to think. What are you getting at? He leaned forward, his frustration mounting but curiosity undeniably tugging at him. What's that supposed to mean? Before I could answer, our server delivered our food, interrupting the charged moment. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, my insides churning a heady cocktail of nerves and venomous anticipation. Nothing, just wouldn't want to make assumptions, right? I just hope whatever's happening is what we've always wanted. I forced a sincere smile while I gently prodded, feeling the trap pulling tighter around him. James's fork slipped from his hand, clattering onto his plate with a metallic thud. You're being vague. Just tell me what you know, he pressed, his voice low, laced with tension. I mean, what do we really know about your visits? I subtly leaned back, blowing cool air into the conversation like a passing breeze. Things don't always turn out as expected. What the hell are you insinuating? His eyes narrowed. You need to stop talking in riddles. I exhaled, letting silence hang in the air like an unspooled thread, and waited. Waited until I saw others in the bistro glance over, their interest piqued by our heated exchange. The trap was set. He was becoming the center of unwanted attention. They do say that infertility can be hereditary, I said softly, sweetly, almost addressing the table behind us. Maybe it's tough to keep secrets like that, isn't it? James shifted uncomfortably. I could see the cogs turning, and he slowly started to realize there was much more at stake than just the two of us. Enough, he snapped, lowering his voice but not the intensity. You can't pull this nonsense here in public. I smiled, the victory residing in the shadows but tasting sweeter each moment. But isn't it more interesting? The thought of what others might overhear, what they might think. James's jaw clenched, fury and fear coiling behind his eyes like angry serpents, and that rent the last facade of control he had maintained. At that moment, I decided to move in for the kill. Do you think they'd believe an unfaithful husband over his pregnant mistress? I mean, you wouldn't want to ruin your reputation, your career, right? He paled visibly, and I could see his panic shifting drastically as the bistro patrons around us continued to exchange glances. What the hell do you want from me? He hissed, looking torn between anger and desperation. I leaned forward, dropping my voice to a confiding whisper woven with deception. I want the truth, James, your truth. You push my buttons, expecting me to crumble, but you've underestimated me. Today's the day I take my power back, and you're not walking out of here unscathed. In that moment, as his eyes darted nervously around the room, I knew I had won the first battle. His carefully constructed image was fracturing, and with every passing heartbeat, I felt the strength of my plan unfurling like a wildflower amidst a storm. Asterisk, asterisk, I had to decide. Forgive or destroy. Tell me in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk, image prompt. A bustling bistro scene with warm, inviting tones. The protagonist, a woman in her mid-30s. has long chestnut hair framing her determined expression as she leans closer to a man in his late 30s, who has slicked back hair and a face tense with anxiety. The atmosphere is charged with other patrons stealing glances, hinting at the brewing confrontation. The sunlight casts a soft glow through the window, illuminating a half-empty plate of food and a pair of trembling hands gripping a coffee cup, signaling the weight of their discussion. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, the air thick with tension as I sat before the judge, my heart pounding as if echoing the very gavel about to strike. Today was the day everything would change. The day I stood toe-to-toe with James and his pregnant mistress, Madeline. The judge, a stern woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, entered the room, and silence fell like a curtain across the crowd. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on my shoulders. Today I was not just a woman scorned. I was the vessel of truth, ready to shatter the illusions James had spun so effortlessly. "Order in the court," the judge commanded, her voice echoing sharply across the room. "We will now hear the case involving custody and other accusations." I stood, my pulse quickening but my resolve tightening around me like a second skin. There they were. James and Madeline sat smugly at their table, their bodies seemingly intertwined. His arrogance radiated, a false confidence I was determined to dismantle. "Your Honor, I have evidence that proves my husband is not only unworthy, but unfit to raise children given his lies," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. I raised a hand, feeling the crumpled receipts from the fertility clinic smoothed against my palm. "I have proof. He's been concealing his infertility from not just me, but from everyone in this room." There was a collective intake of breath, and Madeline's eyes narrowed, shifting from James to me as realization flickered across her face. "Objection!" James shouted, snapping to his feet, attempting to regain control. "This is not relevant to the case." "It's very relevant," I countered, cutting him off. "He has been unfaithful and lied about his fertility, using that information as leverage to manipulate not only my emotions but the court. Your evidence is circumstantial, and this is hardly the place." "It's more than circumstantial," I interrupted, stealing my voice. "I could prove it." I swung my gaze to James as I held up the receipts high enough for everyone to see. "I found these at our house, dated for 2 weeks prior to my visit to the clinic yourself." "James, what do you mean your visit?" Madeline barked, her arrogance replaced by a growing sense of dread. "What are you talking about?" "The kind of visit that reveals too many unanswered questions." "How did you find that, Sarah?" James snarled, rising in a desperate attempt to divert the attention back toward me. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Actually, I do," I replied coldly, channeling every ounce of fury I had gathered over the years. "Because, while you had your perfect little family planned out with her, you were the one playing house behind my back. I've got recordings, and enough proof to show that you knew all along and chose deceit, infidelity, and a lie." Madeline gasped, leaning slightly toward me. "You're a monster!" "No, Madeline," I breathed heavily, letting the words roll off my tongue with biting elegance. "But James certainly is, and you've allowed yourself to believe in a web of lies." I directed my gaze back to the judge. "Jamie has allowed a woman with a growing child to become part of this sordid affair, all while leading me to believe I was still married. A man who won't face accountability deserves to lose." "Your Honor, this is absurd," James spat, panic finally breaking through the confidence. "You can't let her speak like this with no foundation." I took a deep breath, letting the gravity of my revelation unfold as both tension and piercing clarity weaved through the courtroom. "Your Honor, if I may, I gather your attention to Exhibit A, my hidden recordings in our house." The judge raised an eyebrow, motioning for silence, while I offered the recordings for entry. "Those tapes will reveal conversations where James admits to deceit and manipulation. His confession on his infertility, a fact I was never made aware of before all of this began." The room rippled with murmurs. I could even catch a condescending laugh from one of the older jurors. But now, it seemed to echo back at James, shattering his carefully constructed facade. "Your Honor, I beg you to listen. I used to love him, but I've learned only weakness from that love. This woman," I motioned toward Madeline, "is not my enemy. He is. She fell into a trap he built, and today we exposed him for who he truly is. You think you can just destroy us, Sarah? You think exposing our past will change anything? James lunged at me, finally revealing the cracks in his arrogance, the bitterness of exposure threatening to blow his lies apart. The truth is not only liberating, it's necessary, I replied firmly, savoring pure clarity as it coursed through me. You have traded real love for selfish desires. And today, my voice crescendoed, strong enough to resonate through the room, today, you will be shown the truth. As the recordings were played back, I watched as the realization dawned on the jurors, and slowly I smiled. Each word was a bead strung together, dismantling a life built on deceit. I had regained control, fractured his image in front of a courtroom, and with each gasp of realization, I felt the strength of the truth empowering me. As the gavel struck, the courtroom erupted into chaos, voices mingling with anger and disbelief. You, James, I called boldly, my voice ringing clear, are the villain in this story now and forever. *** image prompt. ***, a dramatic courtroom scene filled with tense energy. The protagonist, mid-30s, stands confidently at the forefront, long chestnut hair cascading as she addresses the judge and jury. James, late 30s with slicked-back hair, fuming in his seat, faced with utter humiliation. The bistro buzz of incredulous murmurs surrounds them, a palpable tension hanging in the air, shadows lengthening across the courtroom floor in stark contrast to the truth now laid bare. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows that enveloped my small apartment with warmth instead of the cold isolation I once felt. The vibrant hues of orange and pink spilled through the window, illuminating the stack of documents on my table, the culmination of months of hardship, research, and bravery. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a sense of peace wash over me like a cool breeze on a summer's day. It had been a few weeks since the court ruling took place, marking the end of a harrowing chapter in my life. The verdict had made its way sparse, like whispers through the community. James had lost everything. The man who once prowled around our lives like a lion had been reduced to a shell. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of satisfaction at the thought of his downfall. The gavel had struck. James was sentenced to community service for fraud. His healthcare schemes had finally caught up with him, leading to an avalanche of criminal charges, all stemming from the lies he spun to keep his empire intact. I had considered turning a blind eye to his deceit in the past, hoping for a semblance of our former lives, but now, the reality of his failures brought clarity. His lavish lifestyle had crumbled like the sandcastles we used to build together at the Bede, only now. I was relieved to witness the tide wash it all away. In stark contrast, the morning after the verdict, I had awoken to a bright, new reality. The spring flowers bloomed beautifully outside my window, and the air was fresh with the promise of renewal. I could finally move forward, shedding the weight of his disillusionment. After his incarceration became public knowledge, the isolation he had forced upon me began to dissipate. My old friends, the ones I had lost touch with through James's manipulative grasp, slipped back into my life like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Sarah had taken it upon herself to organize a celebration, something small but meaningful. As I set the table, the doorbell rang, and I rushed to greet my friends. I flung open the door, and there stood Sarah, vibrant and radiant, accompanied by a bunch of fresh daisies, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Surprise!" she beamed, stepping over the threshold, arms open wide. "Wow, you brought flowers," I laughed, hesitant to let the tears stream down my face. "You didn't need to do this. Not just flowers. These are to celebrate you reclaiming your life," she said, her eyes glistening. "Let's toast to your strength." I welcomed her inside, and as the evening unfolded, laughter danced around the room, antidote to the sourness that had engulfed me for too long. The tales flowed freely, intoxicated by memories, reminiscences of love lost, but now the stories momentarily held no bitterness. I realized I'd missed the camaraderie more than I ever had. "I still can't wrap my mind around how angry he must be right now," Sarah chuckled, pouring sparkling cider into crystal glasses. "Do you think he even sees it coming?" I smiled, my heart swelling. "The wine cellar at our old house was where he thought he held all the power," I mused, remembering the way he strutted about with arrogance, always belittling my struggles. But it turns out I was never the one missing the truth. As we clinked our glasses, cheers of triumph echoed in the cozy little apartment. Each sip erased remnants of his toxic grasp, liberating my spirit further with each joyful word shared. "Can you believe he thought he could just control you like that?" Sarah mused with a twinkle in her eye. "I mean, yeah. I thought about it many times," I replied with a mock-serious nod, but deep down I felt lighter. I had chosen the higher road, and the lightness of that choice felt like a warm embrace. But every day since, I've realized the only person I needed to fight for was myself. Days turned to weeks. The chaos of my earlier life now a mere echo as I gradually rebuilt my confidence and independence. I had begun volunteering at a local women's shelter. The women there inspired me, their stories igniting flames of resilience I could hardly begin to fathom. A few months later, I heard whispers of James's life breaking beneath his own consciousness, a constant storm, riddled with despair. The friends who had comfortably clung to his side during our marriage were scattering like autumn leaves in the wind. Reports surfaced about the breakdown of his life, the loneliness settling in like an unwelcome guest. I heard he had been evicted from his apartment post-bankruptcy. The small squadron of admirers dissipated almost overnight, and the empty echoes of his choices reverberated through the people he thought were loyal. It was in those moments, standing amidst the vibrant flowers and loving friends surrounding me, that I felt a sense of profound injustice for him, but the righteous belief that he deserved every ounce of suffering washed over me like a cleansing wave. The sweet beginnings of a new chapter bathed my world in brightness, something I had thought lost in obscurity forever. Such empowerment birthed peace, the very thing he had denied me for years. I looked at my reflection in the mirror one morning, no longer a shadow of confusion, but a woman full of color and strength. And as the sun filtered through the curtains, I whispered to myself, they thought they destroyed me, but here I stand, brighter than before. Subscribe for more karma. *** image prompt. *** a cozy apartment adorned with fresh spring flowers, sunlight streaming through the window. The protagonist, a woman in her mid-30s with long chestnut hair, stands confidently amidst joyous friends, their laughter echoing in a warm, inviting atmosphere. Crystal glasses raised in toast, filled with sparkling cider, symbolizing freedom and renewal, while remnants of bitterness fade into warm golden tones of happiness.